All right, welcome back to the channel. This is a video that I wanted to do following the PS5 tournament, and I'm glad that the RBET, the first one of the year, was pushed back a week. That was actually super clutch because everyone who played in the PS5 tournament last weekend wasn't going to be able to also play in RBET 1, which is really unfortunate because all of us love Edison, and there's just scheduling conflicts, and I get it. You know, that tournament wasn't being scheduled with the PS5 tournament in mind. For one, Keegan lives all the way in like Las Vegas, and that tournament happened in the Philadelphia area. So, you know, two different time zones, literally across the country. But it did conflict with another really big Edison tournament. And I'm just glad that now they're on separate weekends so people can play in both, including myself. But yeah, I wanted to break down just some things I noticed in the top 8 of the PS5 tournament that I personally found to be interesting. On the less interesting note, you know, Black Wings dominated the top 8. We don't have a lot of data as far as what every single person in the room was playing. So take everything with a grain of salt. This is just a look at the top 8. And that's kind of what this entire video will be based on. But I do think that there are some trend lines that we can like talk about and discuss. And maybe we can have a discussion in the comments and stuff like that about, you know, what is happening with Edison format, things that are definitely changing. And, you know, it can just help you to make a more informed decision going forward. But like I said, again, take everything with a grain of salt because this is not an analysis of the entire tournament, all 95 players who entered. This is just a look at the top 8. So as you can see, 50% of top 8 is literally Black Wings. There were 3 pure Black Wings and 1 hybrid. And then the winning deck was, of course, pure Black Wings, piloted by Vinny Casello. So congrats to Vinny again. And then you just have one of the other decks. So Junk, Hero, Frog, Monarch, Fairies, the standard build that plays like DD War Lady, Shining Angels, Nova Summoner, etc. Gladiator the Beast, piloted by Sean McCabe, and a Christia Sworn deck, piloted by Steven Silverman. Outside of Glad Beast, I would say that all of these decks are known to top at any given Edison tournament. The thing that I'm not seeing here that you might see sometimes is like a zombie deck, maybe a dragon deck, turbo or trap dragon. But other than that, this is pretty much representative of the decks that usually do well at tournaments. And so I'm not really surprised at the decks that I see in top 8. And I'm also not surprised anytime I see that Black Wings dominates a top cut of any given tournament. That could just happen for any tournament, not only because it is one of the most represented decks in any given tournament, which is a fact. Like I think Black Wings is more than 20% of entrants at any Edison tournament ever. So, or I should say, maybe not a side event, but like, you know, any RBET deck devastators or in real life tournament of this size, I think that Black Wings are going to be over 20% of all entrants. So one, it's highly represented. And then two, I think it's the best deck. The deck is very powerful. It has auto wins. A lot of decks do not have actual auto wins the way that Black Wings does, like literally going first and opening up Whirlwind and a Shore or a Bora is an extreme advantage. It could even be just a Kalut, but it's an extreme advantage. And if your opponent doesn't immediately respond with something like Heavy Storm or a Caius play or something to kind of neutralize the threat of Black Whirlwind staying on the field, the Black Wing player will just run you over and create a non-game scenario. So that's that. Another thing that I found interesting was what people played in their main deck that I would consider popular cards in the format. So this is an arbitrary list that I came up with of just things off the top of my head and also just scanning the top 8 decks to see what are some commonalities that they have, what are some common cards they're all playing, or that several of them might be playing, and things that I think are just, again, popular cards in Edison format. So Deep Prison, Bottomless, Book of Moon, Caius, Raikou, Starlight Road, Roll Depression, Gores, Mirror Force, Torrential, Mind Control. These are all things that I would be wondering if people are on. So I kind of like to know this to make an informed decision. Dimensional Prison was played by 4 people, and there were 8 copies in Top Cut. So basically half of all top 8 actually played Dimensional Prison in their deck. 6 out of 8 people played Bottomless Trap Hole, and all of them played 2 copies of it. So everyone who played it played the max. And it makes sense that the Frog deck wouldn't be playing this card. And I know Silverman has a personal hatred for Bottomless Trap Hole and wants to never play it in any deck, really. So no surprise there. Book of Moon was played by 5 out of 8 people and played in triplicate by 3 of those 5 people. The other 2 played 2 copies. So yeah, Book of Moon is still doing really, really good in Edison format. it might be, outside of Bottomless, like the best defensive card in the format. If you look at just the percentage of people running it and how they're choosing to like basically max. A lot of people are maxing out on it. A lot of people are playing it and playing a lot of copies of it at that. It's not just being teched at one. It looks like, at least in this tournament, it's being played in, duplicate and triplicate. So there's that. Caius, which is arguably the most popular card in the entire format, was only seen in the Frog Monarch deck. Now, it looks like part of the reason is that, if you notice, Raiko's only played in what? Two decks? There's only two decks that play Raiko. One of them is Christia Sworn, which is not going to play Caius. And the other one is Fairies, and it just plays one copy. Neither one of those decks really play Caius unless you're playing like the Chaos Fairy deck. And I think that Raiko and Caius kind of go hand in hand together. One of the most common plays in Edison format, especially when you first get into it, is flip Raiko, pop back row, tribute Raiko, summon Caius, banish monster. It's really, really strong play. But the format is definitely shifted to where I think overall, setting monsters is just not really where you want to be. Like, we just take this one tournament and look at it here. Because there's so many Blackwings, there's a Glad Beast deck, there's a Frog Monarch deck, there's a Christia Sworn deck. I don't really want to be setting monsters against anything in this top cut except the Fairy deck, like pure Fairies is the only deck that I would feel comfortable with setting a monster. And because the decks that are doing well are so aggressive and just doing really crazy things like dropping Christias and, Whirlwinds and just trying to piece you out really quick with a Storm of Blizzards and Dark Arm and all that stuff, it's kind of hard to establish a good game plan sitting behind set monsters. So seeing only two players using Raiko, which is another really popular card, I am not the most surprised. Also notice that there's an error here where it says Caius is being played by two people. Caius is actually only being played by one person, so I'll just change that now. Next is Starlight Road. So Starlight Road is only being played by three people. I kind of expected more people to be playing Starlight Road just because of its no interaction with Blackwings and their Icarus attacks. But it seems like people, at least in this tournament, were not too big on it. Only three people made it in top cut with it. So do with that what you will. Oppression, I'm not surprised only three people played Oppression. 5 copies total in top 8. Gores, 3 people played Gores. Mirror Force, however, was played by 6 out of 8 people. So Mirror Force is alive and well. You can pretty much expect that Mirror Force is in every game that you play, just about. And yeah, in Monarchs, sometimes they play Mirror Force too. I can't even say that Monarchs don't play it, because one of the reasons why Monarchs started to play it is because of that exact logic that Monarchs don't play it. So yeah, Mirror Force, 6 out of 8 people playing it. Torrential Tribute, only 2. The stock on Torrential was down. If you watched my most overrated cards video, I kind of explained my logic for why I think Torrential is pretty overrated in general. Where the game is going right now, despite the fact that the decks are fast, right? It's kind of hard to win in a game of tempo when you're destroying your own monsters. So Torrential is great when you're playing from behind, but when you are in a neutral position, or if you're, in a winning position, Torrential sucks. Like, if you have a board, if your board has anything, like, I don't even want to make up one, just if your board has monsters on it, it's kind of awkward to have Torrential as your only defense, right? Like, you can't really use it unless you want to lose all of your shit too. And unless all of your monsters are floaters, which most decks don't have that ability to just have a bunch of floaters on the field all the time, outside of maybe zombies, then Torrential Tribute is going to be a negative tempo card for you. So it isn't that good in Edison format, and I think people are aware of that. Mind Control was only played by 2 people, and is actually played by the first and second place, interestingly enough. So again, do with that what you will. Okay, as for side deck cards, so everyone knows Cyber Dragon and DD Crow are the 2 side deck cards that most people start their entire side decks with. And interestingly enough, Cyber Dragon was played by all 8 players in top 8. That just tells me that literally everyone is respecting Machina. Like, everyone is respecting the new Machina control deck. No one wants to just flat out lose to that deck and feel bad that they don't have Cyber Dragon. So I'm not surprised that Cyber Dragon, there are 15 copies. The only person who decided to play one is Silverman, and that's just his deck building philosophy at hand. He likes to play one ofs, even of really powerful cards that all of us might think you definitely want this many of this or whatever. Silverman is like, nope, I'll just play one. So yeah, everyone played Cyber Dragon, and also, fun fact, everyone also had Chimera Tech, Fortress Dragon in their extra deck. So, you know, DD Crow was played by 6 out of 8 people in their side decks. Most people did opt to play either 2 or 3 of it. And yeah, DD Crow's alive and well. Soul Release, surprisingly, was played by 4 people. I just do not think this card is that good. I think it's definitely overrated. And Vinny and his like post-tournament interview did say that he does not like Soul Release, and if he had to play it again, he would only play 1 copy, if that. I didn't really get to talk to anyone else about how good it was for them, but I am curious to know like how good Soul Release was for everyone. Pulling the Rug, half the people played Pulling the Rug, so 4 people. It looks like, oh, I was going to say everyone played 2, but no. Taylor actually sided a full play set of them, and Andrew just sided 1 copy. But yeah, Pulling the Rug is being sided. I think it's probably the most common side deck card outside of DD Crow against Frogs. Like, you could argue Deck Devastation Virus and Mask of Restrict and all that stuff are known side deck cards in Soul Release, but Pulling the Rug, I feel like it has the highest chance to really hurt the Frog deck by skipping their turn, at least from in my experience when I play with Frogs. Sometimes I'm just praying to God that their back row is not Pulling the Rug, because if it is, that was like my one play, wherever it would be summon Junk Synchron or Swap Frog or Stratos or a Monarch, it will just stop that and end my turn. So Pulling the Rug is really annoying. And I am actually thankful that a lot of people are not siding Mask of Restrict, because if people side Mask of Restrict, then people start playing Twister, and I think Twister sucks. So it's kind of like a weird scenario going on here, where I think that Frog players should just be siding Destiny, though, because there aren't that many Mask of Restricts. Not that this one tournament is indicative of everyone in Edison, but I just don't think most decks are siding Mask of Restrict anymore. I don't see it in pretty much any side deck. So Deck Devastation Virus was played by 3 people. As you can imagine, I'm pretty sure all of them were Blackwing players, right? So first place played a full 3 copies of it. And this is something that I saw at Deck Devastators 3, where the hybrid Blackwing player sided 3 copies of Deck Devastation Virus. This card is pretty broken. There's a lot of debate on how hard it hits certain decks, whether it hits Frogs really hard and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, do not discount the fact that I know your hand, and I know your hand for 3 straight turns. That is outrageous in the hands of a good player. Like, that is insane. We all agree that like Trap Dust Shoot is one of the best cards in the format, literally top 2. And yeah, Deck Devi, looking at your opponent's hand, it's going to hit something, right? Like, if I sided this card in, your deck is weak to it. I don't care what you do in the side deck. You're not side decking out 15 of your monsters for 15 bigger monsters. That's just not a real thing. So that whole idea of like, I'm going to side out a bunch of puny monsters and all that to make your deck more resilient to it, it's not really real. And all the side deck cards against Deck Devastation Virus are kind of awkward. Like, none of them solve the problem perfectly. My Body as a Shield has issues where if you don't have a monster in the field and I just deck dev you at the beginning of your turn, you can't use My Body as a Shield. If you have 7 Tools of the Bandit, you know, Blackwings is a damage deck, so paying 1,000 life points is not ideal. Dust Tornado, you know, if you don't catch it on the end phase, if you don't actually hit the Deck Devastation Virus on the end phase, then it's just chainable to Dust Tornado, right? So there's just like a lot of awkward things about Deck Devastation Virus and the counterplay to Deck Devastation Virus. And I like that the community is trying to adapt to this, because I think that I've been preaching the Deck Devastation Virus gospel for a while now. I think that it is one of the best side deck cards in the game. I think it's one of the best cards in the game too. I'm starting to think that it's a little underrated. I don't think people quite realize how insane it is to see your opponent's hand for 3 turns. Like, it is so absurd to do that to someone. And I know that it can take, like, oh, you had to pump, you know, 2 cards into it. Maybe sometimes it's a 3 card investment, but honestly, the Blackwing deck can just do it with 2 cards, the Deck Devastation Virus itself, and Sirocco is the most common. You can set Sirocco against Consecrated Light, and then just set Deck Devastation Virus, and not only do you destroy the Consecrated, but you probably destroy the player. So really, really, really strong side deck card, and almost every Blackwing player sided it. Not surprised there. You can just expect that if Blackwings are side decking against you and your deck has puny monsters in it, this card will come in, and you just have to hope that you don't get caught by it. Okay, Skill Drain, only 2 people played it. Light Imprisoning Mirror, 5 people sided Light Imprisoning Mirror. And Light Imprisoning Mirror is another card that's really good against fairies and the new Christius Horn deck. I have a strong opinion about Light Mirror because I've lost games completely to just Light Mirror by itself when I was playing with fairies and with Christius Horn. It's kind of annoying how good this card can be against those decks. And you just have to side your triple Dust Tornadoes, you know, in every matchup, because you never know how many Light Mirrors someone's putting in and all that and how often they're going to see it. But it is annoying for pure fairies especially, because it cuts off so much of that deck. Where I think Chaos Fairies isn't as good as Pure Fairies or as Christia Sworn, I think one of the cool benefits about it is that it plays a good amount of Dark Monsters that actually out Light Mirror and make Light Mirror awkward to side deck against it in general. Like, I would not side Light Mirror against Karpath's deck. That just does not seem correct. He's playing triple Kaias, and yeah, I would be really annoyed if, he just does regular dark monster things while I have a Light Mirror up. So there's that. Mask Restrict, I already said, only one person siding it. I think this is actually indicative of how Edison format is going. I don't think many people are siding Mask Restrict. We will see with RBET1 in the top decks from that. But like, Mask Restrict has definitely lost a lot of its value. It's really, it's only sided against one deck. And that deck has so many side deck cards against it. I guess that's the real problem, isn't it? Against Frogs, you can just side so many different cards, and they all hurt the deck a lot. Like, DD Crow in any given turn could be really detrimental. Soul Release, I hate to say it, but that, if your opponent ends up sending, going through all of their frogs and has double Tree Boomer Frog in the graveyard, like, yeah, Soul Release is actually not bad there at all. And it can also take away their heroes and their targets for Junk Synchron and stuff like that. So yeah, Soul Release in that case could be good. Pulling the Rug is actually just good against frogs too. And Deck Devastation Virus, it has opportunities to just blow them out unless they reveal a hand of Monarchs. But like, all of the frog decks nowadays are too advanced to just play a straight up old school frog Monarch deck that literally plays like 15 tribute summons, Light and Darkness Dragon, and all that stuff, and then just the 10 frogs, right? Like, that is the old school deck, and no one plays that now. And even then, you're playing like 10 frogs plus triple Battle Fader, probably Tragodia, which is a 0/0 monster in the hand. So even that deck can get hit by Deck Devastation Virus, but it's just more likely that it will have something left over because it's just playing so many 2400 monsters or 2800, whatever Light and Darkness stats are. And then Royal Oppression in the side deck anyway, there were 2 copies in the side deck. Steve pretty much always sides one of that card, and the Fairy deck sided one of it as well. Fairies used to be able to main it, but I think that just summoning Christia is so powerful that should be the ultimate game plan. So I understand why Fairies don't main deck Double Oppression anymore. And yeah, it doesn't play as well. It plays pretty well under Oppression, but nothing plays quite as good under Oppression as the Beatdown deck, the Blackwing deck. So, but yeah, that is a look at the side deck cards that I thought were the most played, the ones that you're used to seeing, and how many actually made top 8 of this PS5 tournament. Now, again, in closing, I just want to say that this is one tournament, 95 people in real life. In real life tournaments are a bit different from online ones. I just think that online Edison, more real decks are in the tournament overall. Like, more people are playing things like Blackwings and Frogs and Fairies and Christia Sworn and Machina Control, Light Sworn, Zombies, stuff like that, like the real decks. And then you get of course, always you're going to get occasional people who think that they can enter with like X Sabers and Quick Draw and Gear Town decks and stuff like that, and that's cool. Like, play what you want. But in real life tournaments, I noticed that there are more people playing jankier strategies. Like, you'll see you're more often to run into like an anti-meta deck or a Flamvel deck or an X Saber deck, stuff that's like kind of in that C tier, not S tier rank. And yeah, those decks are kind of annoying to play against, but at the end of the day, they're in a lower tier for a reason. If you're playing anything in S tier, that being Christia Sworn, Zombies, Blackwings, Vayu Turbo even, those decks just tend to kind of beat the decks that are not as good fairly easily. So this is just, I hope this is helpful. I hope that this is helpful to people and just thinking about what they want to do if you're on like 35 cards and you're trying to fill in the last 5 cards of your deck, or maybe you just have like one slot and you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to put in a Book of Moon or something. I don't know. But yeah, use this as kind of a guide going into RBET1, which is this weekend. And yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be able to enter that as well. And as I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy. I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace out.